Hello, how are you beautiful people? Tastes like death. I think I'm accidentally drinking tap water. Fuck. That's gonna end my life. So you guys were all asking about how to distribute public IPs in your network. So I want to go and show you a couple of ways to do that. Get rid of this incriminating videos. Alright, so I do have this OSPF lab, which I thought would be perfect for demonstrating this. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. If you have an ASN, which is your BGP ID basically, okay, then you can actually use this for simple BGP peerings, which will be demonstrated in a different video, and then your IP block is anchored to that. So that's one way you can do it, okay? Once the IPs are pointed at that AS, then, well, you'll be advertising them and you'll be able to distribute them however you want within your network because they will be routed to you. Now, sometimes, and we're going to be looking mostly at this method right here. So we're going to be looking at the method where you've got a small network, you know, your upstream is providing you with, like, say, hypothetically speaking, like a 1 gig circuit, okay? And said 1 gig circuit came with a /24, okay? So that you can distribute it within your network. All right, so typically what will happen is, let me bring up a router here as an example. So what will happen is your upstream will give you a couple of IP addresses, okay? So there's a few ways that this will happen. One, let's see here, where is my WAN port? There is our WAN. What I'm gonna do actually here to make it easier is I'm gonna go like this and go, I want to put a comment on here. There we go. So now it should show up as upstream WAN, ETH1 WAN. Okay, so in a lot of cases, your upstream will do this. They'll say, hey bud, here's your IP block. They'll give you like, I don't know, .2/29, right, on this port here. And then they'll tell you, okay, well, your default route, which goes into here, by the way, I think I demonstrated this to you guys already. Your default route would be the .1 here, so you'd be, I'm going to make the weight here, by the way, much higher, because we don't want to use it, all right? This is just an example, by the way, of, you know, the wrong way. All right, so what you're gonna see here is this is a sucky way. This is the shitty way when like your upstream says, yay, you want a block of IPs? Wow, no problem. Here's your block of IPs. So you say your .1's gonna be your gateway and .2 will be your IP, and then you've got 4 more IPs that you can use. Well, that doesn't really do you much good because this is now anchored to your public interface, okay? And if it's anchored to your public interface, that means that all the other IPs are also anchored to your public interface, which then becomes a real pain in the ass because the only way to get those IPs pointed at a customer's router is to, well, you have to do one-to-one NAT. Or, you know, you could like put them on a bridge and then create VLANs into that bridge. All of them are pain in the ass methods, okay? You don't want to do that. What's better than that is, let's get rid of this and we'll get rid of this, okay? What's better is if you ask your upstream to give you a /30 and then route your IPs to you. So, excuse me. Oh, yeah. All right, so let's see here. Here is our primary IP. So this is the one that the upstream says, hey, dude, add this to your interface because this is going to be your public IP. /30, okay? That means 4 usable. It's on your WAN interface now. We're going to go upstream interconnect. This is an example. I hope you can't hear my cat in the background. She's locked in the spare room again while I'm filming this. I need to get soundproofing for that door. All right. If I could just afford a studio, that'd be nice too, but whatever. I'm too small for that. So here is our usable IP. This is our well, basically our first usable after the gateway. So now our upstream has said this is your default gateway right here. So I'm gonna go like this. I'm gonna stick this guy in here like so. Distance 100 because I'm doing this for demonstration purposes. There you go. So you've got your default route and the second usable IP is gone because that is your router's IP. Great. So now that that's been done, that means that your router itself has a connection. And what I like to do with this default, you know, upstream peering, I guess you could call it, is, well, upstream transit ultimately. I like to just use that for management traffic. So I will masquerade all the core IPs like the switches and routers and APs and CPEs that are all in need of just basic internet access just for the purposes of updates and UNMS or, you know, CN Maestro or whatever the hell you're using, right? So then that way you're not wasting your publics or your other publics on anything else, right? So now here's your routed block. Your ISP DHCP is, or your upstream provider is saying, hey guy, this is your whole, block that you can use, right? Now, if you're bridged, which I pray that you're not, you can simply add this subnet here like so to any of your internal interfaces, and then it will become accessible within your network. How is that? Because your upstream is going to point that subnet at your router's point-to-point IP here, okay, which is the 66.2. So they're going to see that this subnet is a destination and the gateway is this IP here, which means everything else on the internet will know that, hey, 69.6660.0/24 is present at 74.83.66.62/30. Okay, so if you want to see that subnet, that's in there. That's behind that guy right there. So now what? Great. It's inside of your network. Well, see how I stuck it on the last mile interface right here? I'm going to call this my public. Here we go. So, and I'm using the first IP, the first usable IP as the gateway. You can also use the last depending on your school of training, but if you did, whatever. All right, so anyway, now that has been said, any client devices that are within this last mile bridge can now access that. So here's a cool little trick. This is just one method, by the way. So everything that's inside the last mile bridge can now access that. Let's go to the DHCP server, okay? I'm going to create a DHCP server. Actually, let me turn off this IP first so I can just create a default DHCP server here, okay? So we're going to go to last mile here, and I'm going to create its DHCP server, right? No. There we go. Boop. It's done! Okay, we're going to call this customer CXNAT. All right, cool. Always broadcast. Yes, we got all the other cool stuff that's needed. Blah, blah, blah. We're going to also relabel the DHCP pool here. IP pool. I've already done this in another video, so why the hell do you even need to know this? CXNAT. Okay, cool. So there we go. So now we have some IP addresses for the customers here. Now watch this. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to add an additional network profile here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this subnet range to here. This is the subnet that this rule is going to be for. And I'm going to tell it that the .1 is the gateway. And then because they're getting direct publics, I'm just going to give them, like, Google DNS and OpenDNS, right? 8.8.8. Or Cloudflare, sorry. There we go. So now watch this. If there's a client, I need to add a client device. Hold on one second here. What interfaces do we have? I'm going to stick port 2. I'm going to put port 2 in there. I'm going to put port 2 in there. Or you know what? Even better. Hold on. I can connect to this with Roam on. And I'll just go to the second router on this thing, R2, and I'll tell it to get a DHCP address. DHCP client on, let's see here. What's an interface that's not being used for anything? Ethernet 2. Cool. Oh, yeah, and by the way, just because I don't want to break my OSPF here, I'm just going to turn all that off, okay? So now let's go over here, and I'm going to add to bridge, I'm going to add port 2 to last mile, because port 2 is not being used for anything, so it's our demonstrational port. There we go. Now, if I go back over to this guy here, I should be able to go, oh my god, can I zoom in on that? My poor old eyes. No, I'm not that old. I'm only 39. That's like the new 21, right? Please tell me it is. Okay, so, zoom out. Okay, here. So I'm just going to connect this. So let me connect from port 2 to port 2 like so. Okay, so now that that's done, let's bring up those two routers again. Yay. Okay, so this one has an IP. Watch this. So if you look under the DHCP server here, you're going to see a lease now. Now, this is where this little rule right here is kind of important, okay? This little rule is needed. Watch. If I now take an IP address from here, say I'm just pretending that I'm going to use the whole /24. So I've got this here. I'm going to start at the top of the pool and work my way down, okay? So I'm just going to double click on here. I'm going to go make static, and we're going to call this one Phil Collins. There we go. Is it 2 L's in Phil? Phil Collins. Okay, let's see here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this IP address like so to 254. So now what'll happen is now that I've done this, you can see that the active address is still 100 and the new address will be a 69. As soon as this times out from 8 minutes and 55 seconds, it will pull this new address. Now, the DHCP server knows that that subnet is allowed to get some options. So when the DHCP server issues that IP address to that customer that we just did under leases, it's going to say, by the way, here's your gateway and these are your DNSs, because that's what's here. It looks for this and it says if an IP address belonging to this subnet is issued, that it will also issue this gateway and these DNS. Okay, So then that stuff goes in there, and this customer now gets their public IP. And alternatively, you can also tell them, hey, if you want to program it into your, router because you're being anal and you think that you have to program it in, even though our router is always going to issue you this IP address, then no big deal. You just leave the static lease in here, and they can program that in. Okay, now there are going to be downsides to doing it this way, but we're not going to get into that right this second. Okay, so that's one way that we can distribute these IPs. Now, something else which I recommend as well. Notice that I started at .254. If you're a small operator, you want to conserve your IP space. Now, if you watch my my CGNAT video, it'll show you how to do CGNAT, of course. What you can now do is, let me re-enable that. What you can now do is, I would say use, let's see here, for CGNAT, you can say use, let's see here, 2 through 20 for CGNAT. Okay, there we go, like so. Just, reserve that space. So now you can take the first 20 IPs and you can use them for your CGNAT. So now you've got 20 IPs for your CGNAT, and you're going to have, the rest for your, just to hand out to customers directly. Okay, so that's one way. This is not a very efficient way to do it because then you're relying on one bridge on the network. Here's another way that I like to do it. Okay, this is a little bit more efficient. Now watch this. So obviously I'm going to have to change this IP range now. Otherwise it's going to break. So I'm just going to get rid of this router because this is just our DHCP dummy. So what else we can do? Well, let's say that we want to keep... Okay, let me... Wait. There we go. Let's say on the main router. So on your main router... let me just type main router. There we go, because there is a little bit of a discussion still going on whether your edge router is your edge or your border. Okay, so you can actually break up the subnet a little bit. So let me bring up the online subnet calculator. Where is my... here we go. Online subnet calculator. Okay, so here's a cool little trick, by the way. I could say how many IPs I want to reserve. So let's say I want to stick 62 on the front. Okay, so I need a /26. So watch this. So I'm just going to change this to a /26 like so. Now watch. If I hover over that, it'll tell me what IPs are usable. So 0 to 63 means 1 to 62. Awesome. Remember that thing I showed you in the DHCP server? Go back over to leases here. And this guy hasn't quite got their IP yet. So let's start at the top of the list. So now they're going to get .62. But there's one other thing I need to change here. I'm going to change this to match, otherwise it won't work, okay? 26. All right, so now this customer is going to get .62. You'll see that in about 5 minutes. When it rolls over and re-attains a lease, that'll change. Okay, cool, watch. So now we're conserving our IP space. So we're only using, watch this. Let me go to comments here and change this up. Okay, so we're gonna still use 2 for 20 for CGNAT. I'm just gonna minimize this, NAT, and then let's see here, we're gonna use 21 through 62 as client. All right, so now we've got what is that, 21 to 62, that's what, 41 IPs that we can use there, specifically for giving out to customers directly. Okay, like I showed you in the DHCP, and we're still maintaining the first 20 for CGNAT, which means that 20 times, let's pull up a calculator here because it's late and I've been drinking again. This is becoming a bit of a problem, by the way. I think it's mainly because I'm lonely. Okay, so we've got 60 times 30. So if we put, 20 times, let's see here, we're gonna put, 20 times 30. So we've got 600 customers we can put behind those 20 IPs if we do a 1 to 30 CGNAT. Or if you want to be more conservative, 60. So we'll go 20 times 60. So you can put 1,200 subs behind those usable IPs that you've reserved here that, well, hold on a second here. I'm not being honest. I just remembered 2 to 20. So that's 18. So let's go 18 times 30. So that's 540, or 18 times 60 equals 1,080. So if you want to be conservative with your IP space, you can do that. All right. Now, what about the rest of the IPs, you might ask? Okay, so we've just taken, 60 out of there? Where's my calculator again? Calc. We can float the rest of those IPs as /32s. All right, so what's 254 4 minus 62 equals, so there's 192 IP addresses that we can float around. This is where we jump onto the other routers now. So check this shit out. Okay, we're just going to minimize this one for a second. I'm going to pull up router 6, okay? Because we're deep in the network here. Set up. All right, screw it. Let's go to router 2. Whatever. Going to router 2 here, because clearly I didn't build this out. There we go. So you see the routing table right here, right? And by the way, thanks you. Yeah, you kick ass. So now you're going to see this IP address is now present across the network, right? Now, you're wondering, how do you distribute the IPs to customers? Well, you can do this a few ways, okay? You can break this up into smaller subnets using the subnet calculator, right? Remember, you've got 192 IPs left, okay? So you could say break them up into little /28s across your network. So let's go calc, and let's see here, 192 divided by 14. So that would give you approximately 13 subnets. So you can distribute 14 IPs across 13 routers. That's okay. All right, and then you can do it the same way that I just showed you. You can actually go onto the router, and you could like put a little slash, what did we say they were? You can put a /28, okay, onto one of those routers, okay? Did I do the math right? Hold on. No, I didn't do the math right. Let me do that one more time. Because a /28 is 16 IPs. So if we go 192 divided by 16, yeah, okay, so we can distribute that 12 times, okay? Blah, shut up. All right, so you can do, if you do it to /28s, you can put a /28 on 12 routers. But again, that's not very efficient. It's be a little bit more efficient if you do PPPoE. So if you follow my basic PPPoE video, you can create we'll just create a profile here called PPPoE. We will make the local address pool like so. So I'll make it just for shits and giggles. We'll call it PPPoE, and we can go 172.31. This is tower number 2, so we'll go 2.1 through 172.31.2.32, like so, right? So this will be the IP address that we'll give on the local side of the interface. So we'll go like this, PPPoE, all right? So we're gonna, let's see here. Oh shit, you know what? I fucked up. Copy. There we go. PPPoE, there we go. Enjoy the ADHD mind. All right, so there we go. We've got our profile. And it's going to use, for local app addresses, it's going to take from the PPPoE pool, right? Okay, let's go back over here to our PPPoE server. No. See, brain is not fucking working tonight, but I am trying. Okay, so we'll create a new PPPoE server, okay? And by the way, you can throttle these guys through CRM or whatever billing system you're using. You don't necessarily have to do this. This is just simply to get the public IP to them. So we're going to put this on the last mile here. That's what we're going to advertise. We're going to go 1480, okay, which gives us 20 points just for our PPPoE session, and then we're going to use PPPoE like so. Now, we don't care about the security on this because this is literally just for the customer to get a public. So now we can go to secrets, and we can go Tito, and we can make his password big ol' buff as an example. And we can use PPPoE as his service, and we can go profile PPPoE, and then we can give him his remote address, which will be, let's just give him 254, because he's the first guy on the network to use one of these IP addresses, okay? Now, I could give him 255, because remember, we're distributing the rest of them as /32, so there's no, hey, that's cool. Is it resolving that? Ha! I didn't realize that the MikroTiks did that. That's brilliant. Cool. So anyway, we can now, just punch this IP address in here. We could punch in down 255 because we're not using the top IP as a broadcast, but just for shits and giggles, we're going to start at 254. So this guy here is going to get its local address through the profile that I set up, but this is going to be given to them like so. So now once this is active, this will actually publish this through the routing table, okay? So IP routes. This will publish that public IP throughout the routing table on these routers through OSPF, and now you're not wasting 4 IPs to give 1 IP to a customer. You're simply using 1 IP. So this doesn't mean that you give all your customers PPPoE. You just go DHCP, and then, any customer who wants a public, you simply do this for them, right? And this will give them their public IP. This is an efficient way to distribute public IPs throughout your network. That's really it's really simple. Not that complicated. I don't know what else to say. But yeah, just for shits and giggles, let me just show you the alternative method, okay? If you want to waste IP addresses, like I said, you can distribute 12 /28s. So where would our first /28 be? Let's see here. We're going to just pop this in here and see what it says. Okay, so we're going to go 32's gone, 33, so that 34 /28. I'm going to stick this on last mile like so. Okay, so this will actually let us do that, sort of. See, we're running into a problem here because we're having overlapping subnets, right? So now if I did a /29 on the other hand, that might do it. No, see, it still wants to start at 32, so we're kind of fucked there, right? So we're going to want to go up. All right, so let's try 36 /28. Apply. See, it's still going to do it because it needs that block there. All right, so we got kind of borked here, right? It's 49, sorry. This should actually be explained in a proper subnetting video to you guys, why it's being done like this. Okay, so we can start at 49 here. So we've got 16 IPs here. So we've got 48 to 63 available, which means that usable, we've got 49 to 62. Okay, so 49 to 62 are now anchored on this router. That subnet is now stuck here, meaning all IPs affiliated with that subnet are now anchored on this router and they can't be used anywhere else in your network, otherwise you will cause routing problems. Alright, so that's the other way that you can do it. Do I recommend doing it this way? Only if you specifically want to keep everything to DHCP. Otherwise, don't do that. You can just simply distribute the public IPs to the customer using a simple PPPoE entry on top of the existing DHCP services. Now, the reason why I say that is because I'm not a big fan of using PPPoE everywhere, okay? I'm really not. So, by doing this, yeah, you're just handing them one single IP address and saving your space. So anyway, I think that's where I shall draw my conclusion, because, yeah, the video's already, like, what? I'm showing 29 minutes, so I'm hoping that a bunch of fat can be cut off of it. And anyway, as usual, don't forget, we have a Facebook page, we have a Patreon, which will be in the description below if you want to help contribute to the channel. Patreons get exclusive access to certain content that is not publicly posted on YouTube. On top of that, we give you a shout out to all you guys. So yes, a shout out to all of our patrons. Thank you so much for helping us out, keeping the channel alive. And yes, enjoy, and I don't know, whatever. My brain's not working, so. Any questions, put it in the comments below and I will try to answer them as best I can, or I will catch you on the Ms.Fixit Facebook page. Thanks, guys. Ciao. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye.